Good evening. Good evening. Leader Munson, you want to join me up here? Thank you. Good evening.
Birthday Bob.
I should have brought my own gavel so I could call us into session. I'm Senator Julia Curd. I'm the Senate Minority Leader. Very proud to be here. I want to really quickly introduce the Senate members that are here. Some of them have district events and have to leave, so I want to make sure I introduce them right away. Senator Nice, we are in Senator Nice district. Senator Nikki Nice. Senator Joanna Dossett from Tulsa. Senator Mark Mann represents Oklahoma City and Del City. And Senator Michael Brooks was popping around. Maybe he's still moving, but Senator Michael Brooks represents Oklahoma City. Do you want to introduce your folks and then we can talk about them?
Before I start, I do real quickly want us to say happy birthday to Leader Curd on her birthday. On her birthday. On her birthday, she's working on a budget, which sounds about right. That's why she's the leader. I am Cindy Munson. I'm that. Oh, yay. Sorry. I didn't
Really
say
embarrassed
sing.
me.
I didn't say sing. Birthday, dear Leader Curd. I'm sorry. I am Cindy Munson. I'm the state representative for House District 85, and I'm the House Democratic leader. We also have a good group of House Democrats in the room here today. We have our caucus chairwoman, Representative Trish Ranson from Stillwater. If you can't tell, go Pokes. From Oklahoma City, Central Oklahoma City, Representative Ellen Pogmiller. From Del City, and also our floor leader, Representative Andy Fugate. From Tulsa, House District 70, Representative Suzanne Schreiber. And the vice chairwoman of our caucus and from Oklahoma City, Representative Ellen Hefner. And he will be here very shortly. He's running just a few minutes behind, but from South Oklahoma City, downtown Oklahoma City, Representative Forrest Bennett will be here as well. So thank you all for being here.
All right. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really pleased to see all of you in the room. And I'll just tell you just briefly why we've convened this meeting tonight. You may know that in the Oklahoma State Capitol, we do not have public comment as part of our regular process. So during legislative session, when bills come up, when the budget comes up, there's not a way that the public gets to speak out on those topics. Really, people have to go to individual legislators' offices. They have to call and email their legislator. They might be able to meet in groups, but they don't ever get to be on the record giving testimony on issues. And I feel like it's a really missed opportunity for us to hear the real stories of people doing the work, who are living the experiences based on those decisions we make. And so we're really trying to make space for that when we can, which we don't, as the minority party, we don't organize the agenda during session. We are just follow the agenda during session. But right now we can create that kind of space. And we know that the budget is one of the most important things we do up here, taking taxpayer dollars and making decisions about what the priorities are of the state. And so we are thrilled to have you here to give feedback on how we spend money. It is such an important thing we do day to day. We are making decisions that matter for not only today in our state, but our future. And decisions to increase, decrease, change taxation affect all of us. And so I'm really proud to have you all here to give that feedback. And I think that's incredibly important. I want to mention that we are doing live captioning on the screen. It is AI based, so it may not be perfect. If we are during the budget presentation, we are going to do full screen slides that won't have captioning unless you give us a high sign that you really need this captioning. So please give us a wave if it's hard for you to understand. Okay, so we'll have the slides a little smaller, Elizabeth. So if you can't see the slides well, you'll be able to get those later from the Policy Institute. But I just generally want to thank you, and I want to thank our caucus and our House colleagues that we get to work with, and their willingness to be here and listen. Because normally, you all may know when legislators show up, usually we're blabbing, right? Usually we're talking. And this is a big thing for us to focus on listening and hearing you. And I think if you came tonight and you're on the fence, if you want to speak, I really encourage you to do so. We want to hear from you. We're giving people up to 3 minutes. I know that's pretty quick, but we wanted to make sure there was a time limit. You are welcome to speak about your personal story, or you can give stats if that's important to you. But what we need to hear are more voices telling us what matters in our state budget. And I'm so proud you're here tonight. I'm proud to work with Leader Cindy Munson and glad to have her give some comments.
Sure. I think the only thing I would add is to what Leader Kurtz said in terms of public comment and being able to hear directly from you, because we get a lot of requests from agencies and, you know, we have conversations here in this room, but it's rare that we get to hear upfront, honest conversations and requests from the people and those who are actually on the ground providing services or receiving services. And as we gather information, it'll be nice for us to share with our colleagues across the aisle, but also in our communities. And I hope as we leave and once we hear the information and gather all that, that you all feel more connected to your state government and to state leaders and come into this building, sit in these chairs when committees are happening, because it is open to the public. The whole building is open to the public, but it's not always the case that people come and sit in. And so know that your voice is very important to us. What you share with us is very important to us, and it'll help strengthen our ability to advocate for funding to go to services that we know are very critical to the lives of Oklahomans.
I do want to add that we are recording tonight. We're not live streaming. We did offer the link to anyone who had needed an accommodation, but we're not live streaming because we find it difficult to combine hybrid, you know, local and remote unless people really need it. So, you know, at some point we might have a virtual meeting, but we really wanted to focus on the people in the room, and I really appreciate you all being here face to face. I think so many times we're at home dealing with news media coming at us or dealing with social media, and for us to really see each other as humans in this building, I think matters. So thank you for being here. We are recording. We will put the whole recording on YouTube afterwards, and you're welcome to clip it or take your own testimony if that's important to you. Certainly your option. There are more seats in the corners, and I know that people can make more room in the pews, as I call them, if we need to. So if there's anyone who's standing and wants to sit, I know we can make room for you. We are proud tonight to welcome the expertise of the Oklahoma Policy Institute. Anahita has been advising the legislature for several years on financial and taxation policy. We gave her kind of an impossible task, which is to talk about the state budget in 15 minutes. And this, hopefully for any of you who don't already know about the state budget, this could whet your appetite. Oklahoma Policy Institute has a lot of great policies and programs to learn more about the budget if you want to know. But we thought it'd be valuable to have just that overall framework of the budget first. And then if you want to follow up, certainly follow the Oklahoma Policy Institute for more information. Thank you for coming.
So I'm sorry to disappoint, but this presentation will not be 15 minutes. I had to take an extra 5 to really explain the budget. So we're not going to be able to show full screen, so my animations are not going to work. Okay. Who are you looking at? Yes, as in we will not be able to show animations. Woo! I know. Do you know how much time I spent? Yay! Okay. Can we go back to the first slide? Okay. Okay. So hi, my name is Anahita, or as my mom says, Anahita Irvin. I'm the fiscal policy analyst at Oklahoma Policy Institute. And for those that don't know, the Oklahoma Policy Institute is a nonpartisan and independent think tank that works on policy issues across the board through a data-driven lens. And we are guided by our mission to advocate for equitable and fiscally responsible policies that expand opportunities for Oklahomans across the state. And we work across the aisle to accomplish that mission. And I'm happy to say that I've been with Oklahoma Policy Institute for 1.5 years now. Next slide. Okay, perfect. Yes, thanks. In today's presentation, I will start by introducing the main topic of taxation and budgets and how they're related. I will then go into how taxes work, and I'll end with what are budgets really and why they matter to our lives. So what are budgets all about? Next slide. They're all about the money, money. Next slide. Specifically, fiscal policy has to do with the way governments bring in money. I'm gonna need you to give me the clicker. Thank you. Do I need the, okay, cool. Specifically, it has to do with the way governments bring in money, which is also called revenue, and the way that governments spend money, which is also called expenditure. Typically, governments make the most of their revenue through taxation, but there are other avenues like fees and utilities or federal funds, but the large majority of the state's budget is made up of taxation. And to just give a simple definition, a tax is a mandatory payment or charge that is applied by any local, state, or national government to an individual or a corporation that is used to pay for the cost of general government activities and services. Budgets, on the other hand, are the mechanism through which governments spend the money that they collect. Now, it's important to understand that tax revenue and budget expenditure are closely linked. Revenue collection determines the expenditure capacity that a state has. When revenue increases, expenditure could increase. We last time decided to save our money, which is good. When revenue decreases, though, it's highly likely that expenditure will decrease, which means that services will be cut and the government's budget will shrink. With lower state revenue, there's literally less money to allocate in the state's budget. Several factors can impact the state's revenue and budget, including broader economic factors, policy changes, changes to the tax code, and Oklahoma policy largely focuses on changes to the tax code because that's one of the few factors that we can actually control. In recent years, there has been a large push to cut income taxes across the nation and in Oklahoma specifically, which we can see in the light blue and dark blue parts of this chart make up more than 40% of our state's budget. As we saw, cutting taxes translates to less revenue, translates to services being cut. So keep that in mind as we move through this presentation. In this presentation, I argue as a whole that fiscal policy, this influx and outflux of money, is crucial to the government's function and impacts every single part of our social and political lives. Because if there's no money backing up policy, the policy is pointless. So now that you can see budgets and tax are two sides of the same coin, I'm going to jump into some nitty-gritty tax policy, how taxes work, why they're crucial to our well-being. So to start with, I'm going to introduce just 5 common taxes that you guys probably all are familiar with. There's the income tax, which is a tax applied to a person's wages and income. There's the corporate income tax, which is applied to a corporation's profits, and both of these together make up the total income tax. There is the sales tax, which is applied to any product that you purchase. There is the gross production tax, also known as severance tax, which is applied to any resource that is extracted from the land, including oil, gas, minerals. And there is excise tax, also known as sin taxes, that are applied to things like alcohol and tobacco. So I want to start by, next I'm going to talk about how taxes can be put into 3 buckets largely. There's progressive taxes, there's regressive taxes, and there's flat taxes. And progressive has nothing to do with like ideological framework. It has progressive taxes, to define it, are those that take a larger percentage of income from higher income groups than from lower income groups. A great example of this is the graduated income tax structure that Oklahoma has, where the tax rate increases as income increases. So this graphic illustrates an Oklahoma household's income. A married couple in 2024, if they earn $20,000, what would that tax structure look like? You can see that at the bottom, their first $2,000 is taxed at 0.25%, their next $3,000 is taxed at 0.75%, and so on. So as income increases, the tax increases. Next, I want to introduce regressive taxes, which is the opposite of a progressive tax. It takes a larger percentage of a person's income from lower income groups than from higher income groups. An example of this is property taxes. Another example is sales taxes. And I'm going to go through an in-depth example of how this really plays out so y'all can understand what regressivity truly means. Take, for example, there's two people. One person makes $20,000 a year. The other makes $500,000 a year. Assume that they have the same appetite and grocery spending habits, and they both spend $5,000 a year on their grocery bill. That means that they end up paying $450 a year on their sales taxes. Even though they spend the same amount in sales taxes, the sales tax makes up a larger percentage of the lower income group's income than the higher income group's income, putting like more cost on lower income groups. Okay, the last type that I want to introduce is a flat tax, which essentially means that the tax is the same regardless of the income group that you are in. And one example of this is the Social Security tax, but income taxes could also be structured as a flat tax, which I do not recommend. But a flat income tax would look like, let's say we tax all income, no matter your income class, as 4%. And that's it. There's no graduated rate. As we saw, income taxes bring in the largest portion of Oklahoma's state revenue. But even though it makes up such a large chunk of our revenue, legislators and the governor passed a bill last session to eliminate the income tax. House Bill 2764 is the tax cut bill from session 2025. Two parts of the bill took effect immediately. And to understand those changes, I've illustrated this table that shows you what the tax structure looked like before the changes took place. And this is the same rate and income brackets that we saw in the previous graphic. So the first change that took place was that the bottom three brackets were completely eliminated. And the next change that took place is that the remaining brackets, the tax rate applied to them was cut by 0.25%. Now, all of this together, these two changes cost the state $350 million every year. House Bill 2764 also included one more provision, which was a trigger tax cut. And the way a trigger tax cut works is to gradually eliminate the income tax over time without any action taken by the legislature. So to explain it, I have a really cool graphic, which is why I needed my movements. So assume we have a baseline amount, a baseline budget amount shown in blue here, which the legislature would set. Along with this, the legislature also sets a revenue threshold shown in red there. The tax cut in any given year would only apply if next year's budget is higher than the baseline budget by the amount equal to that revenue threshold. So if next year's budget is less than that revenue threshold, no tax cut takes place. But if the budget is higher than that revenue threshold, then a 0.25% tax cut would take place immediately. And this would continue until our personal income tax is completely eliminated. So triggers like this put Oklahoma's tax cutting decisions on autopilot, which is a terrible idea. And we have tried this before and we're doing it again. A graduated income tax is a fair tax, and eliminating it does more harm than it does good. This graph here shows the percentage of income spent on taxes by households' income levels. As you can see, the blue and red sections here represent sales tax and property tax. And those are the largest for lower income people, and they decrease as income increases. On the other hand are the yellow bars, which is income taxes. They're virtually non-existent for the lowest earners, making less than $24,000 a year, and they start slowly increasing as income increases, which is why it's a progressive tax. This means that higher income earners pay a greater share of their income in income taxes. But considering all of the taxes overall, sales, property, other, and income taxes, the lowest earning households in Oklahoma pay the largest portion of their income in taxes at 11.1%, whereas the wealthiest among us pay only 6.3% of their income in taxation. Now, if income taxes were completely eliminated, the Oklahoma tax code would lose its only progressive tax. The yellow bars are gone, and this would make the disparity worse overall. We can see now that lower income earners increase their share that they pay in taxes from 11% to almost 12%, whereas the highest income earners go from 6.3% to 3%. And in short, eliminating Oklahoma's income tax would help the people who need it least, which is the wealthiest Oklahomans. And this point is best illustrated when we look at how much money people actually got in their pockets when we cut taxes earlier this session. The 0.25% cut in session 2025 gave the bottom 20% of Oklahomans $9 back in their pockets, whereas the wealthiest 1% got $3,000 back. Yeah, ooh. This disparity gets even worse when income taxes are eliminated. The lowest income earners get no savings. It increases a little bit. The highest top 1% of Oklahomans would get back $55,000 a year. That is all of our state revenue going back to them. Okay. Oklahoma has a long history of cutting taxes, and it has a long history also of implementing triggered tax cuts specifically. Together, these tax cutting sprees have cost the state a lot of revenue. An important thing that I want to keep in mind before we jump into the timeline is State Question 640, which I'm sure lawmakers in the room are very familiar with, which requires a 75% majority vote by both the House and the Senate to pass any tax increases. But the same mandate is not required to cut taxes. And so this is why cutting taxes in Oklahoma are particularly dangerous, because how often do you see 75% of both the House and the Senate voting for something together, especially to raise taxes? It makes tax cuts virtually permanent. So this is the timeline of tax cuts that have occurred in Oklahoma's history since 2002 to 2025. And I just want to point out two things. I'm not going to go in depth about this. One, because of State Question 640, the only time Oklahoma has raised taxes in its 30-year history was in 2018 because of the teacher walkout. This indicates how difficult and rare it is that Oklahoma will actually raise taxes. Two, the top income tax rate used to be 7% in 2002. It has now decreased to 4.5% in 23 years. And now we're on a path to elimination. Okay. In the beginning of 2025, Oklahoma already had one of the lowest individual income tax rates in the nation, ranking 28th lowest out of 43 states that have an income tax. Policy priorities only get accomplished when there's funding behind them. As we continue reducing state revenue in large chunks, the state will have to start cutting funding for various agencies, programs, and services. So the top 10 state agencies get 85% of the state's funding, with education, healthcare, transportation, and public safety agencies requiring the most funding. Those top 10 agencies will definitely be impacted when we cut taxes. Our government will not be able to adequately fund services that everyday Oklahomans rely on. And the state of Oklahoma already ranks lowest in most quality of life metrics. This will only make it worse. When this year's triggered tax cut scheme fully is implemented and the income tax cut is eventually eliminated, that will have grave impacts on our state's economy and everyday Oklahomans. And this doesn't even include the impacts we're going to see on our state's revenue, federal and state revenue, when HR 1, the big but not so beautiful bill if you're an average person, is going to hit our state coffers very, very strongly. Okay. Some lawmakers have suggested making up that income tax revenue through sales taxes. They have two options of doing this. They can either increase the sales tax base, which would mean removing sales tax exemptions for marginalized people, certain groups, and increasing the number of people taxed, which will not generate enough money to make up that 40% gap. Or they could increase the sales tax rate. Now, increasing the sales tax rate has a few problems. For starters, Oklahoma already has one of the sixth highest sales tax in the nation at 9%. Secondly, increasing sales tax rate to collect more state revenue while we continue to cut income taxes would place more of the cost on lower income households because sales taxes are regressive. And lastly, What is the likeliness of the legislature actually increasing sales taxes to make up that revenue loss given State Question 640's implications? Okay, y'all with me? Okay, now we're going to the budget process. I only have 5 slides left. Every year, legislators have to decide what they want to fund, make decisions around that, decide what is important, and that has impacts on people's lives. How much funding is allocated to healthcare, emergency management, public education, our roads and infrastructure changes people's lives and can even save people's lives, which is why budgets are often considered moral documents. They impact everyday Oklahomans' lives. Oklahoma's fiscal year 2026 budget was passed in May, which was House Bill 2766, and it appropriated a total of $12.08 billion. Education in general got most of the funding, followed by health and social services, indicating these 2 categories as the state's largest expense. Okay, now we get into the real juicy part. I love this slide. So the budget process works in fiscal years, not calendar years. That's why I have it going from July through June, because Oklahoma's fiscal year, budget year, starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th the following year. The budget process begins with state agencies creating their own budgets from July through September, and agency budgets are used as a baseline by the governor and legislators to create the state's final budget. Agencies must submit their budget requests to OMES, the Office of Management and Enterprise Services, by October 1st, which I hope they did last week. A separate organization called the Board of Equalization, BOE, estimates the next year's estimated revenue. How much money is the legislature actually going to have to allocate? In December, the BOE provides an early estimate, and then they come back in February and they certify their final estimates. They make any adjustments that would have occurred in those 3 months. The information the BOE provides helps the governor and legislators have a good idea of how much revenue is actually present in state coffers that they can allocate to the services that we all use. The governor uses all this information to create his own executive budget, which is presented at the State of the State address in February, which kicks off the legislative session. The legislative session is where all the magic happens to create the state budget. All the appropriations subcommittees and committees get together, start meeting. They decide what is important, what needs funding, what can be deprioritized. While a session involves a lot more than just passing the state budget is the single most important task that the legislature undertakes. The legislature must pass a balanced budget by the end of session in May. And this process is crucial for the legislature to have all the information to do their job. Passing a balanced budget, I don't know if you knew this, I didn't before I started my job. Passing a balanced budget is the only constitutionally required action that the legislature must take, even if they don't do anything else. Although the state budget is a year-long process, as you saw, it is barely influenced by the public, like Senator Kurtz said earlier. And most of the legislature has no say in this either. This is because the state's budget process is not transparent. In other states, on average, the public and all lawmakers get to read and digest the budget for about 82 days. In Oklahoma, we get 3 days. That includes the days that lawmakers spend on the floor debating the budget and voting on it. That is not enough time to really understand the complexity and where all that money is going. Our budget process has a long way to go to have more voices influencing the budget process. It is worthwhile to note that after adjusting for inflation and population growth, the state's budget is inadequate to meet the needs of all Oklahomans in 2026. We can see that in 2001 was the largest budget ever passed, adjusted for inflation and population growth. And since then, the legislature has appropriated fewer and fewer dollars to services that more and more Oklahomans rely on as our population increases and inflation continues to rise. This is my last slide. I know that was a lot. It's a lot for me. So I'm going to end with 4 key points, okay? Budgets are moral documents. Where we choose to put our collective money can change people's lives. And as I said, it can literally save people's lives. Budgets show how the legislature is prioritizing things in all of our names. Tax policy is not inherently neutral. The way tax policy is written chooses winners and losers. People may think it's just numbers, but no. What we have to ask ourselves is the people designated as losers, can they afford to be losers in that situation? Some people can. And the people that are designated winners, do they really need that help? Third point, don't be intimidated. Most of the lawmakers here didn't know what the heck the state budget was before they walked in the room. I didn't until last year when I started working here. So we all have to keep engaging with the process because we're never truly going to understand the budget completely. It's not your job to, it's their job to. But we know what we think is important. We know what we need funded, like schools and roads and emergency management. So keep that forefront in your mind when you're talking to lawmakers about the budget. And lastly, budgets are about choices. Budget and tax policy, fiscal policy is all about choices. And there's a limited amount of money to allocate to those choices. When we start cutting taxes, we are choking off the revenue sources that we have and shooting ourselves in the foot because in effect, we are restricting our options. The budget, on the other hand, is how we make our priorities clear. Do we want to live in a society where we provide the basic necessities for all Oklahomans to thrive? Or do we want to be a state that pushes aside vulnerable communities while relying on them to support the most wealthy among us?
That was really wonderful. Thank you so much. You can see how much knowledge she was able to distill into all that. So thank you very much. Well done. Just briefly, you're still welcome to sign up if you want to give testimony. We're going to get started with folks. And really, I want to introduce Senator Carrie Hicks, who's our Assistant Floor Leader in the Senate Democrats. Appreciate her being here. We really worked hard to have our appropriations team here, and that's I know that's true on the House side too, because some of us get to sit in more budget meetings even, but we are all involved with the budget. And I think what she has said is so important to emphasize, which is this doesn't just happen naturally. This is all humans deciding these things. Either it's a decision that was made in the past that we stick with, or it's a decision we're making in the present, right? So I really appreciate you all being here to give your input. We are going to have a timer. Elizabeth Sidler, sitting right in the middle of the room, is our timer. She will try to get your attention if you're up here and you're going long. We don't have a big hook, but it could come out if it had to. We will try to be respectful. If you come up here, take a moment to compose yourself. I know this room is kind of intimidating when I first walked into it, but just trust me that you're in an audience that wants to hear you and wants to hear your story. So I'm gonna call folks up. I'm gonna start with Anthony Carfang. Come on up. So this is my constituent, and I know that he has the ability to go first because he has, since I arrived in the legislature, been a very consistent advocate and involved with public meetings. So I thank you for going first, Tony.
So, hi, I'm Tony Carfang. I'm president of Bike Oklahoma, but I'm also a flight software engineer over at Tinker. Before getting too much into the weeds, how many people here deal with any leg pain? Leg pain. Couple of hands. How about lower back pain? How many people? Exactly. So I'm dealing with sciatica issues lately. And it is a nightmare to sit in bucket seats in a car, even if I'm in the back seat of an Uber. My work, for better or for worse, sends me over the country every month, and I'm on a lot of flights, and I take a lot of precautions to sit in the aisle seat and get up and walk down the aisle. I've got cushions and lacrosse balls to roll out just to make the flight bearable. We do not have transit to the airport. Now, I've been a bike commuter for a long time, and my sciatica does not have issues on a bike. My leg strength is getting better because of it. My physical therapist appreciates that I bike places. I don't necessarily want to bike to the airport for my business trips, but it's about the only thing I can do to not have pain. I don't want to be in driver's way on the way to the airport, but I don't really have much of an option. Now, think about how many kids don't have the ability to drive to school, and how many parents sit in their cars for the pickup line, idling in neighborhoods, and what a time sink that is on their day. Think about elders, people in retirement. Statistically, people are living past their safe age of driving by 7 to 10 years. What is retirement like for people who cannot get around and don't have transit? It leads to isolation. It leads to dependence on family members who otherwise have kids to take care of or work obligations. It's a challenge. So I'm here to advocate for focused funding around transit and safe streets. So fundamentally, the Oklahoma DOT has about an annual budget of $810 million allocated from the state. There's another $600 million, or about 75% on top of that, that comes federally. And so there's sort of an interesting uncertainty around the future of that extra matching. So where might we get the extra 75%? The other big gap is with how much, the other big gap is how much we spend through state funding on transit. Every January, Secretary Gatz gets up and makes a request, and he does emphasize a need for transit, but the request is $7 million. Less than 1% of their entire budget. There is in 2020, ODOT came up with a public transit plan, and it's a pretty solid plan. But to meet the plan to be a top 20 state in transit by 2050, we need closer to $100 million a year. So I'm happy to have deeper discussions on where that can come from. I think Oregon actually has a 0.1% dedicated income tax to transit, and that right there is $100 million. So I'm open to ideas, and I've got plenty of discussion with ODOT on how funding could be better utilized. So thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for kicking that off. I really appreciate it. Sarah Smith is up next. I will just say briefly, this is the best birthday party ever. And you know I'm a budget nerd when I think this is the best birthday party ever. But really, participatory democracy is the best.
Hello.
If you'll tell your
My name is Sarah Smith. I am here to advocate for mental health because our brain is the biggest organ of everybody's body here. And we need to start concentrating on protecting the people that are unable to protect themselves. I do have an extensive background. I do have a sister that suffers from schizophrenia, and many of you might recognize me up here advocating for the Courtney Smith Act. Then I worked for Mental Health Court in a McBride Court in Blaine County for 3 years, where I was a coordinator. And now I work for NAMI, Oklahoma as the CIT coordinator and working with our officers and first responders on crisis intervention. I'd like to start with the court programs because I have actually been receiving quite a few phone calls from the participants of the court program that I'm no longer with. And it is because they no longer have somebody to call for support. And that is very alarming to me. And they start with all these apologies. And I tell them not to worry about it. I'm here for you. But that is very alarming that, you know, they have had to cut some finances and but sorry, I'm a little nervous. That the clinicians are no longer on board with the court programs. With that being said, our court programs, so it costs on average about $19,000 to incarcerate somebody for 1 year. And these people plea into the program so to avoid incarceration, and it costs the state about $5,000 per person to go through the programs. These programs are not the Hail Mary to stay out of DOC. They're much more than that. I sat there and I watched people plea into the programs.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. Oh, dear Lord. Mental health really needs the funding. I'm seeing it in all different avenues. The helpline, I did receive a call or an email right before I headed this way that our helpline is up 70% from last year of people calling on the helpline. So please consider mental health. If you guys would like to talk more in depth with me, you are more than welcome to. I will leave some of my cards here. Thank you.
Great job. Thanks so much, Sarah. Mesky Owens. Oh, there. There's still time to sign up if you want to sign up. Thank you for being here.
I'm Misty Owens, and I'm a mother, an advocate, and a survivor who's lived through the gaps in our systems. I've seen trauma show up in classrooms as silence, defiance, and self dysregulation. I've watched children flinch at raised voices, hide under desks during fire drills, and shut down when asked to participate. I've seen educators overwhelmed, undersupported, and unsure how to respond and I've navigated systems that weren't built for healing. I've watched families, mine included, try to rebuild while carrying invisible wounds. This isn't just about healing kids, it's about stabilizing families. When we intervene early, we reduce long-term costs in education, juvenile justice, and mental health. We build resilience. We prevent crisis. And studies show that intervention has a return on investment of $17 for every $1 spent. We build roads before traffic. We build bridges before collapse. We invest in infrastructure before disaster. So why do we wait for crisis to support families? This is economic mobility, it's workforce readiness, and it's national security. Here's the plan. Fund trauma-informed training for educators. Like TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention, for just $250, a school can download a full training program, which is $9. That's about $9 per teacher when it's shared across the campus. And the return is real. Schools using TBRI report 40 to 50% fewer office referrals. Suspensions drop by up to 50%. Teachers report higher morale and lower burnout. Students show better regulation, stronger relationships, and improved academic engagement. Fund annual developmental screenings and wraparound services for children under 5 and their families. Early detection builds futures and saves money. Right now, we're missing 70% of our kids. That's 182,500 children in Oklahoma who aren't getting screened, supported, or seen. If we reach them just with basic early intervention, we'd see a return of over $3 billion in the next decade. Fund grants for domestic violence screening tools and family support integration, especially in pediatric and school settings. DV is not just a home issue, it's a classroom issue, it's a health issue, and a future issue. Fund peer-led resource navigation, stipends for trained parent navigators in schools and clinics. These are people who build trust, walk with families, and help them access what they need before they hit crisis. I'm here to ask for strategy. Let's fund what works, let's fund what heals, and let's start early.
Thank you so much, Misky. Senator Goodwin came in. Now I've lost eyesight with her. There she is. Senator Goodwin from Tulsa is here. Thank you for being here. I'm pleased to introduce Kathy Costello.
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to speak. Yes, my name is Kathy Costello. I'm the widow of Labor Commissioner Mark Costello, who was elected in 2010 and re-elected in 2014. Mark and I have 5 children. Our oldest son, Christian, was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 19. And like many individuals with schizophrenia, Christian suffers from anosognosia, a condition that prevents one from recognizing their illness and the need to stay on medication and their treatment program. Oftentimes, Christian would beg us to help him stay on his medication, but then anosognosia would set in and he would refuse. On August 23rd, 2015, Mark and I met our son for dinner. He announced that he had once again quit taking his medication because he didn't think he needed it. Christian had a psychotic break, believing that his father was a demon from a reptilian race. Unprovoked, Christian took out a knife he carried with him for protection, and he slit his father's throat. My son stabbed his father 17 times in the face, head, chest, neck, back, and arms. When I tried to intervene in this horrific attack, my son put the knife to my throat. I was eventually able to drag my husband into the car. I held him while he choked on his blood and suffocated with a collapsed lung. I told Mark that I loved him. I told him to ask God to forgive him of his sins and to be prepared to meet his creator. Mark died in my arms. 10 weeks after burying my husband, I was up here at the Capitol testifying before a Senate committee. The subject was AOT, assisted outpatient treatment. AOT is a life-saving, court-ordered treatment for individuals with serious mental illness who struggle to stay on their medication and engage with voluntary treatment while living in the community rather than being hospitalized or incarcerated. This 12-month program has a very high rate of success. I don't have time to give you the statistics, in reducing arrests, incarceration, hospitalizations, homelessness, suicide attempts, and harm to others. AOT is used in 45 other states now. House Bill 1697 was passed unanimously, the Labor Commissioner Mark Costello Act, in 2016. And in 2017, I was invited to speak in New Jersey at a legislative breakfast before 400 attendees to share what we are doing here in Oklahoma with AOT. AOT is now called co-op, court-ordered outpatient treatment. It's the same thing. Knowing that something good came out of our tragedy has been healing, but because of a lack of funding, mismanagement, and incompetency, yes, I'm calling it what it is, my friends, providers like Red Rock, NorthCare, and Hope are now not able to bring on new clients, new individuals for this program, resulting in more underserved clients being incarcerated rather than treated. Please tell me why us, the taxpayers, who give money to the legislature to fund our programs, why are we being punished for their mismanagement? 30 seconds. $1.3 billion in the Rainy Fund is bragged about. We do have funds. If we do not spend the money now, my friends, if we don't spend it on the front end, we will spend it on the back end. It will burden police, hospitals, jails, prisons, domestic abuse, and foster care. Please, my dear legislators, do not be a penny wise and a pound foolish. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Such an important story. And I really, everyone so far, I just appreciate you sharing such important perspectives. And I think it's fair to be that pointed about the budget. We need to be that pointed and that serious about it. Jeff Macy, I'm glad you're here. Come on up, Jeff.
Well, my name's Jeff Massey, and it's always a pleasure to have Kathy go ahead of me. So that's I'm the director of at the district attorney's office of the court-ordered outpatient treatment program she just spoke about. So what I would there is one, if there is one issue that should unite both partisan and nonpartisan, it is mental health. I deal with mental health every day. I'm the person that sends people to prison. I'm a prosecutor. Okay, in Oklahoma County, we have the highest ratios of mental health to criminal statistics. I speak on this at various seminars nationally. Okay, yet 2 years ago, we created this entity known as co-op, court-ordered outpatient treatment. Our success is unparalleled across the nation because we said we're not going to incarcerate people for misdemeanors and petty crimes. We're going to instead treat their mental health if they have a diagnosis. We've had 150 plus graduates. Of that, less than 15 have reoffended. We have some very impressive statistics, but it takes money. And right now we know which agency has not spent those funds well. But I encourage you to reach across the aisle, grab them across the aisle, okay, and make them understand that mental health issues are not going away. They are not decreasing. I've got statistics that will show the teenagers today will be your schizophrenia issues in about 5 or 10 years. And why? Because that's when those developments start from the use of medical marijuana, those gummy bears, and then that starts to extrapolate into schizophrenia and domestic violence issues just a few short years later. Okay? But it takes money. And right now, our 3 programs are out of money. And I'm having to turn people away. Okay? I'm in a horrible position as a prosecutor of saying, I have no place to put you. I have no place to put you, and your only alternative is to either go to jail or take a deal for a conviction. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you do something wrong, I can send you to prison. Okay? But if you're mentally impaired, you shouldn't have to suffer because of bureaucratic ineptitude. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for bringing that perspective. Darian, I think I've got Dylan, Darian. And if anyone can't come, if anyone can't come to the podium, just give us a wave and we can set you up at the tables. Darian, Dylan. Thank you for coming, Darian.
Thank you. My name is Darian Dillon. I'm from Thunderbird Clubhouse. And I've been in Norman about 5 years now. My parents died I lost my parents. I've been in Norman about 5 years. My dad died in 2018. My mom died in 2020, I think. And I was born retarded. The fontanelle in my head closed 3 different times. And then I had to go do that several times. And I have a lot of friends all over this country, all over the world, everywhere. They stood by me through and through. And I suffered through different schools. And what else? That. And then, but I've always been a good citizen. I read the Bible every day. I try and try. We all make mistakes, but we got to pray for forgiveness all the time. And thanks to Thunderbird Clubhouse, they brought me a long way. And my brother, his wife first, and then my brother. My parents died. It was very, very hard for me. I lived in El Paso, Texas since 1975. I moved to Norman. Okay. And I did that, and I struggled a long time in this town. Sometimes I can't sleep right. Sometimes I sleep all right. It's just very, very hard for me. And I take medicine. It sometimes makes me really sick in my stomach. I feel like I take way too many medicines. And I feel blessed. And I learned a lot of things from the director over there, Lynn Blum. And thanks to my brother, my sister-in-law and my brother, they have stuck it out with me and they deal with me the best they can. And I have a lot of friends that deal with me and take care of me the best they can. But I'm a real hard straw to break. And, but I've struggled. I've struggled for, I'm 64 years old now, and I struggled through school. I struggled through life, 64 years. And I still keep on plugging the best I can, best of my ability.
Very nice. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to the clubhouse. Alex Harnack or Harnack. Thanks for coming, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Harnack. I'm a proud member of Thunderbird Clubhouse. Yeah. And this is my story. I've come a long way. My name is Alex Harnack. I have bipolar disorder, depression. I hear voices and I struggle with substance abuse. I've been a member of Clubhouse for over 10 years. I've learned that Clubhouse gives its members opportunities to achieve. And at Thunderbird Clubhouse, I get to do a lot of stuff people said I could never do. I'm involved in the cooking, cleaning at Clubhouse. I get to make meals that I've never made before, and I've learned how to cook through Clubhouse. I'm really good at it. When you're working hard at Clubhouse, the world doesn't seem all that bad. And there's some days when all I could do was make it through the front door, and that's okay. Even on those days when all I could do is make it to Clubhouse and not do as much, I was struggling with substance abuse. I still felt like I was in a safe place to be at. I could be around my friends at Clubhouse. Thunderbird Clubhouse is a very healthy place, and the relationships you gain there are healthy as well. The friendships you make there can be healthy outside of Clubhouse as well. I'm strong enough to get help, and I'm working on myself every day. I'm a better person every day. Every day I feel like Clubhouse is going to help me through the journey, and they're going to support me, and I'm going to work hard to stay sober, and I'm going to work hard to be the best Clubhouse member ever. And I love Clubhouse. Clubhouse is awesome.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, Alex. We've got Charla Collins. Charla.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Charlotte Collins, and I have come to testify both as a mother and a community member that's out there advocating for folks that are living with severe mental illness in our community, untreated and without shelter. My story began, or my journey, almost 10 years ago. My daughter had a serious psychotic break after a issue with baby daddy, because we do have 3 children. And he had tried to choke her out with an electrical cord. Came really close, but she was always a little different after that happened. But at least she was able to come to me and go, hey, I want help. So like any of us would do who are parents, no stone unturned. I'm going to go to every one of these places and I'm going to find you the best help. Time and time and time again. Failure. At one point, she was in co-op, and I had legal guardianship over her because it became really clear some of the decisions she was making were not in her best interest. I already had guardianship over the children because she was in no shape to take care of them. She was looking for time travel portals. When released down in Oklahoma County, while I begged as her guardian for them not to let her go, despite the fact she'd been waiting for 8 months in that jail for care because there was no beds available, they let her go. A week later, I later find out, I think she's missing, and I'm out looking for her in our community. It wouldn't be for 3 months before I got that collect call from Los Angeles. You see, a week later, she was down in LA and she took a woman hostage at an In-N-Out Burger and threatened to take her life. So we then got to experience the California system. Let me tell you, California folks, they got issues, okay? But they begged me eventually to come and get her because they can't control her and they don't know what to do with her. She bounces around different hospitals, different police departments, and I end up flying out to pick her up and drive her back here by myself while in psychosis and psychotic. Probably one of the stupidest things I've ever done in my life. But as a mom, we will do anything for our loved ones. I was promised by one of our diversion programs that there was a bed ready for her. I drive straight. I get to Oklahoma City. I knock on a door. I don't know what you're talking about. Excuse me, ma'am. I just drove here from Los Angeles. You better find a bed for this one. Eventually had to get a CIT officer from Oklahoma City to escort my daughter into the facility and have them get her a bed. Fought to get her help. The next time she runs, it's Wyoming. She was inpatient in Wyoming for 10 months, waiting for their state hospital, which I was actually excited about. Unlike us, they have a state hospital. We lost our state hospital 2 years ago when Griffin downgraded to a crisis center, and they will not keep anyone over 21 days. Ignore the fact there's only 125 beds for the entire state at that hospital. We were going to get, and we were promised a new hospital that was going to have 300 beds, which, okay, at least that was double. But the reason we didn't get that hospital is because the city of Norman did not purchase the Griffin complex for $53 million. And the Donahue being completed was conditioned on the sale of that property. So anyways, when the state of Wyoming called Oklahoma, they would not hold a bed for my daughter. They refused. Griffin was like, no, we can't hold a bed. We don't hold beds for people. And so it has been, all I can tell you is a journey. It's been hard. She's my only child. But when I look at that 7- and 8-year-old boy that I'm raising every night, who wants to know where their mommy is, what should we be prioritizing? There are not enough libraries, sidewalks, bike racks that should be prioritized over our most vulnerable population. I have lost count of how many people I've taken to these lame urgent recovery centers. They do nothing. We wasted millions of dollars on nothing. We need a state hospital, and we need to demand it now.
I'm trying not to comment, but I will say that the legislature also could have funded Donahue fully. That was a choice as well. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have to sell the land. Yeah, we could have chosen to fund that. That would have been a choice. Heather Monroe is up next. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Heather. Come on up.
Hello, my name's Heather Monroe, and I am here to advocate for mental health. I have a daughter and now a son that struggles with mental health because of the actions that I had to open DHS case for 2 years, and my actions caused them to pretty much, they're adults now, but it's coming out. It's coming out in ways where they had to go through for 2 years. They had to go through a lot of stuff in foster care. They had to go through just what we did to them as parents. And I also work with North Care, and I'm a parent partner. I work with parents that's going through DHS. And mental health is so important because Right now, if they get told on their ISP that they need to get in to see a therapist, or there's already a wait, and if the funding is not there and they take away that, they can't get their kids back because that's one of their, things on the ISP to get into mental health services. We have a lot of parents that, when you lose your kid, you're going to struggle mentally to get up and out of bed. They need those services and they need somebody there to help them because it's hard. It's hard whenever your kids are with the state. It's hard not to have them. And that is what I'm advocating. Mental health is so important, not just for, children, but just for the parents too. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Lynn Blotham, or I may be reading you wrong. Lynn?
It's Lynn Blom. Rhymes with Blom. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word in here. Okay, hi, my name's Lynn Blom, and you've heard from many of our members, and you'll continue to hear from them tonight from Clubhouse, and I am also from Clubhouse. Thank you for the opportunity to have us come speak tonight. It is really important for our members to come and advocate for services that impact their lives every day. I'm here to highlight the importance of mental health funding in Oklahoma. Not just important, but it's life-saving. It's vital. Some of our members would be dead or in jail for life if it weren't for places like Clubhouse and other agencies that you're going to hear from tonight. I have been with Thunderbird Clubhouse since I was very young. I've been there almost 18 years. I've been director for the last 10. We have, as an agency, been incredibly grateful for the Department of Mental Health to have been contracted with them. We've been good partners with them, and we've shown the outcomes that they have asked us for. We have been able to save the lives or touch the lives of over 1,000 people in Oklahoma. I do want to point out that Thunderbird Clubhouse is just one clubhouse in Oklahoma. We also have one in Edmond called Oasis Clubhouse and one in Tulsa. Yay, Oasis! And then one in Tulsa called Tulsa Clubhouse. So I just wanted to say that unfortunately, we were one of the state agencies that got or nonprofits that got impacted by the cuts recently from the department. You're going to hear from more of our members, and I really want you to listen to the stories and how taking away services from vulnerable people that need them is really going to impact their lives. At Clubhouse, we assist adults with mental health issues with things like employment, education, housing, wellness, and socialization, just to name a few. We operate from an evidence-based model, the Clubhouse model of psychosocial rehabilitation. And the model, I said it was evidence-based. It has shown to decrease hospitalization rates and decrease incarceration rates and other things like families that are active in the foster care system or homelessness rates. And so Clubhouse has done a lot, and not just in our state, but other states and worldwide, to really help decrease those costs. So the economic impact of funding these mental health services are vital. I want to say, in fact, one day at a state hospital, as was pointed out, Griffin, it only costs 8% of what it would cost at a state hospital for a member to come to Clubhouse. So I think it's really important that we note that funding preventative services is as important, if not more important, than funding the reactive services and the services that people need when they're in crisis. Oh, yes. As Kathy pointed out, our state will pay in other ways and spend a lot more money in the long run if we don't take care of the agencies that are getting cut right now. A Band-Aid on the budget for now will lead to hemorrhaging funds in the future for Oklahomans. So thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Lynn. Ashley Barnett. Ashley. Come on down. Lynn, I think you've got some fans in the crowd.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ashley Kanawha Barnett. I'm a Muskogee Creek Nation tribal citizen, and I'm also a member at Thunderbird Clubhouse. I've been in the mental health system in and out since I was 15 years old. I've been in foster care. I lost a baby in DHS custody who died, and they didn't help me bury him. The tribe did. I also lost another child, which they try to say I tried to kill that baby, which I never took him home from NICU. I also lost another tribal baby through miscarriage. Well, Thunderbird Clubhouse has helped me in many ways. I've been a member since 06. Lynn has always been there for me. She's always called me, even in COVID. My husband also had schizophrenia, and he was Apache. Lynn was there when we had no meals. She was knocking at my door and say, "Ashley, are you hungry?" "Oh, yeah, I'm hungry." You can tell I'm hungry. Could you tell? So I ate that meal and fed my husband. I'm also a CNA and a CMA. I went to school through my tribe. I worked in the mental health system as also being in the mental health system. I had my first psychotic breakdown when I first lost my baby in 98. Like I said, I've been in and out of the mental health system, and Clubhouse has been there for me and never gave up on me. Just when I thought I was going to give up today, I had Erica, Elliot, Lynn tell me I'm okay to keep going. I'm going to school now to finish my education. I skipped 11th grade and I'm finishing with 9 credits, and I'm going to go to OU, and I'm all this to the Clubhouse, and they're diverse, and they treat us with quality of life and quality of care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Antonio is up. Thank you, Ashley. Antonio. He stepped out. Okay, we'll come back to Antonio. Yvonne Johnson.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Johnson. My issue started about 10 years ago when my psychiatrist first tried to find out what was wrong with me and prescribed me Xanaxes, and I had a car accident with my daughter. I was introduced to Thunderbird Clubhouse in 2020, but life issues happened, and I came back when another member from Clubhouse asked me to come with them in October 2023. Clubhouse has helped me find my purpose again due to the loss of my brother, sister, and nephew, all in 2023. Please reconsider the cuts to Thunderbird Clubhouse's contract because it has changed my life for the better.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Tyler Ross. Tyler.
My name is Tyler Ross. I'm from Oklahoma City. Schizophrenia is often described as a life-altering diagnosis, a condition that can feel isolating and overwhelming. But for many, recovery is possible, especially with the right support. This is the story of John, a man who battled schizophrenia and found strength, hope, and renewed sense of purpose through peer support services. John was in his early 20s when he first began experiencing symptoms of schizophrenia. Paranoia, auditory hallucinations, and disorganized thoughts quickly disrupted his daily life. He withdrew from his family and friends, unable to articulate the chaos unfolding in his mind. Hospitalization followed, and while medication helped stabilize some symptoms, John felt isolated and misunderstood. After a particularly challenging episode, John's caseworker recommended a local peer support group. Skeptical at first, John attended his first meeting, expecting more clinical advice and little understanding. Instead, he was greeted by people who had faced similar battles, people who listened without judgment and shared their own stories of struggle and survival. Over time, John found comfort in the group's honesty and vulnerability. For the first time since his diagnosis, he felt truly understood. Members discussed coping strategies, shared resources, and offered practical tips for managing daily life. John learned that recovery was not linear and setbacks were part of the journey, not reasons to give up. One member, Mike, became a mentor to John. Mike had lived with schizophrenia for decades and managed to maintain a job, relationships, and a sense of self-worth. He encouraged John to set small, achievable goals, taking a walk each day, journaling his thoughts, and practicing self-care. The guidance and encouragement from Mike and others helped John combat the feelings of hopelessness that once dominated his life. With the support of his peers, John slowly rebuilt his life. He started volunteering at the support center, helping others just as he had been helped. This sense of belonging and purpose was transformative. John found new friendships, reconnected with his family, and developed a more positive outlook on his future. John's journey was not without challenges. There were setbacks and difficult days, but the constant presence of his peer support community helped him persevere. Sharing experiences, receiving encouragement, and knowing he was not alone made all the difference. John's experience is a testament of the power of peer support services for those living with schizophrenia and other mental health diagnoses. While professional medical care is crucial, the empathy, understanding, and solidarity found in peer communities offer a unique and invaluable source of strength. For John and countless others, peer support is not just a lifeline, it's a pathway to hope and healing. I beg and pray that you don't let John lose his strength. There are other Johns screaming from the bottom of the mountain. They all need peer support services. My name is Tyler Clark Ross, a proud Okie, a grateful person living with schizophrenia, and a true believer in peer support services. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Antonio, did you return? All right, Antonio, you're up. Thank you for coming.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Antonio Ganger, and I'd like to share my story about mental health and how access to mental health support like Clubhouse has profoundly impacted my life. From my very first breath, life was a struggle. I was born in a small clinic delivered by a midwife, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. As a result, I have cerebral palsy, which mostly affects my fine motor skills, but nonetheless, it has affected my life in a profound way. Over time, more diagnoses followed, from mental retardation to mild mental retardation to PDD, NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, to Asperger's, and finally autism. Through all of this, I experienced what I call the wide loneliness, a lifetime of isolation. Because of years of social neglect, I developed anxiety, treatment-resistant depression, and trauma related to institutional homophobia, and the failure of the DHS system to ensure I grew up in a home that would promote human flourishing. Over the years, I have tried many forms of therapy and treatment, but none of them addressed I now understand to be the core condition for human flourishing: community. That's what Clubhouse provides. Clubhouse is more than a program, it is a lifeline. It offers socialization, opportunities for growth and human connection. It is through even though I've only been a member at this particular Clubhouse for a very short time, I already feel deep connections to many of the people there, and it has expanded my life so much. I would really urge the legislators to reconsider the cuts to mental health and to Clubhouse, and to think about how that adversely affects so many people, and how, as a state, do we want to people to be able to live a life of dignity within our community. So many of us say, you know, we value community, we value family. But when we don't provide the tools for people to live lives of dignity, do we really value family? Do we really value community? Who do we value community for, and what types of families do we value? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Whew. Touching. Sarah Rahal. Sarah. Thank you.
I did have something prepared, but I think I have to change it a little bit based on everybody who's presented today. I've spent 40 years in the mental health profession last month, and hearing everybody's stories, I've worked in clubhouses and in the court programs, and just want to thank you all for being here because this is what matters in our community. So thank you all. I wanted to just talk today a little bit about the importance of infant mental health and early care and education. Because of the stories we're hearing today, when we invest earlier, we know that we can support families, new families, and children. We always talk about birth to 3 as it's not the warm-up, it is the main event. That 80% of a child's brain is developed by the time they're 3, 90% by the time they are 5. We have very high ACE scores in Oklahoma, and we know that treatment and all programs are necessary, but we often limit and reduce the expense on early intervention and prevention, which we know saves the cost further on down the road. I'd like to thank you all here who supported the Strong Start program in funding teacher child care subsidy and recognizing the value of a paid family medical leave act. We know that women are important to the economy, to the workforce. We most often want to value our motherhood, being an aunt, a neighbor, but we know that we need supports to do that. We have seen women in domestic violence come to our programs knowing that we can help them connect with a partner agency, have a job as a teacher, and have their 3 children in our classrooms. So as the young man just said, that what do we value? Our budget does talk about our values and it shows what we value. So I hope that we will continue to say we value the people who really live here.
Thank you, Sarah. Very important work. Tree Kelly. Tree, thank you for being here.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to present just a little bit about what we do. I am Tree Kelly, Executive Director of Parents Helping Parents Incorporated. We cover all 77 counties of Oklahoma. We provide support, education, advocacy, and just plain help when people need to call and they need to vent and they don't know where to go. And we provide these services for parents and families of those who are struggling with substance use disorder. Quickly, one important thing that we do is we take a bus filled with providers, case managers, PRSSs, therapists, and we go to each quadrant of the state and we stop in all of the small towns along the way that we would call a resource desert. We advertise that we're going to be in these different towns in several counties. Generally, we cover 15 to 20 counties each trip. It's all over social media. People know we're coming, and when we pull up to these locations, they are already in the parking lot waiting for us, and they're asking us to please help them find a bed. They need a treatment center. They need recovery. They need general help. We have parents saying, I don't know what to do anymore. I can't help my child anymore. I'm raising my grandchildren. What do I do? And we are there with that bus full of professionals to help answer their questions and meet their needs. We reach about 3,000 people per month on our online platforms. We provide support groups online, both private and public. We do all of these things on a small budget of $240,000 a year. I had 3 contracts with Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, which I was notified Labor Day weekend that I lost all 3 contracts. So I don't know how I'm going to reach all 77 counties anymore. I don't know what's going to happen to the people who wait for us in these resource deserts. I don't know what's going to happen to the vulnerable Oklahomans who desperately need our assistance. And so I'm asking our legislature, please reconsider your funding. $240,000 is a very small drop in your budget. And I know we've got so much in the rainy day fund. If we could even just use some of the interest off that rainy day fund to... Thank you. Thank you. to fund programs like Parents Helping Parents and all of those people here tonight who are passionate about serving Oklahomans. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's right up Oklahoma Policy Institute's alley. Don't forget the interest that's being earned on that money. That's good. Nadine Lewis, come right up. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kurt. I started my life off with parents that abused me in every way you could think of. I didn't know about ACEs when I was growing up. I found out about them once I was in recovery. I spent 26 years in the United States Coast Guard, barely hanging on to my career because I developed mental illness while I was in. When I got out of the service, I was struggling, not knowing what to do. By that time, I had over 14 suicide attempts because of what my parents did to me. I didn't think my life was worth it. So when I got out of the service, I found NAMI. They got me involved in programs with them. I have since left doing those kinds of things, and I found a wonderful community called Oasis Clubhouse and Thunderbird Clubhouse. I truly have a family I never had. I had both of the clubhouses. I know this is going to sound small to you, but it was a big thing to me. I had both clubhouses yesterday call me and sing to me, "Happy birthday." One of my colleagues, Callan, her daughter sang me happy birthday. She's what, 2? That's what family does. I just got back from comprehensive clubhouse training, and I've got more friends now at Genesis Clubhouse and learned about a lot of programs and stuff like that, and we need that here in Oklahoma. We have a vision of planting, 5, 6, 10 clubhouses here in Oklahoma. We would like to do that, but we need money. We need money from the state for mental health services. We can't afford to not have them. We need to get treatment to children early and younger so that they don't grow up like me. We need to intervene early to let them know that they're cared about and loved. But I'm glad I have a new family now. Thank you, Oasis and Thunderbird, and NAMI Oklahoma Great OC.
Thank you, Nadine. We see Nadine up here also as a big advocate for veterans, very big leader up here for veterans. Robert Ratcliffe. Robert, thank you for coming this evening. If anyone needs water, this water is for you. That's at the table. It's our fancy state taxpayer paid water on the table.
How y'all doing? I'm Robert Ratcliffe. I'm a 20-year Army veteran. So thank you for the other veteran over here naming. Actually, a few months ago, I got to actually meet Senator Mann, Senator Kurt. They came down to Lawton, Oklahoma. That's where I'm from. And did a nice little town hall down there, which I do really appreciate. And they definitely heard from a lot of veterans, to include myself. One of the things I came to kind of advocate for is Oklahomans and Americans. And the fact that American money and Oklahoman taxes should stay in Oklahoma. It shouldn't leave the country. It shouldn't be going to another nation to serve them and to allow them free health care. Okay, we're sitting here and I don't know how many people up here before me have talked about mental health and the health care that is needed here in Oklahoma, here in the United States. And I asked y'all a question whenever you were in Lawton about sending money overseas to other countries. Specifically, and I know there's, by looking up and doing my research, I know there's tens of millions of dollars that leave this state to go to another country. And it is being forced by a foreign entity that is within our politics. And it's called AIPAC. All right, they're forcing our legislators to send our money over to another country to support them and their mental health needs, their healthcare needs, their education needs. I'm just saying, as an American, as a veteran, I spent 20 plus years serving this country. I want our tax money to stay here and support us, not go overseas. It's enough. And it's time that changed. And our legislators from both sides of the House are bought and paid for by this foreign entity. And as a veteran, as an American, I find that it's disgusting because you have so many needs here in this country that need to be met. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Maria? Maria? Thank you for your service, Robert.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Dolores Baca Carrasco, and I am the mother of a wonderful 17-year-old, and her name is Milena, and we live here in Oklahoma. Milena has developmental and intellectual disabilities, which I've been there where one of the other exposers say that I've been on hospitals knocking doors asking for a bed, and they just say, no, sorry, we cannot give you a bed. And we have to handle her mental crisis at home because we cannot receive help. So we need help on the mental health part. Right now, Milena is receiving the waiver services, and I'm able to be her HTS, which means I can help her with her daily skills, learning, and help her to be more independent. But one of the biggest challenges we face is the lack of trained and available staff who can work with my daughter. There are simply not enough people willing to prepare to provide these essential services for an Oklahoman. Because of that, I am the only one who can stay home and care for her. And that makes it impossible for me to go out and work. As a mother, it's very hard to choose in between being there full-time for my daughter and having the opportunity to work and support my family. I want to work. I want to be productive and contribute to our community. But without more staff, people who are trained, compassionate, and consistent, families like mine are left out with no option to stay home. Milena is a happy and lovely young girl. She enjoys learning new things and be part of the community, but she needs constant supervision and guidance. If we had more HTS or persons who can take care of our loved ones, Milena could participate more in the community. She can learn new skills and grow more independent. And I, as her mother, could also have the chance to work and provide a better future for us. That's why I'm here today, representing all those parents who are taking care of their loved ones right now. To ask for more support for families like ours. We need more trained professionals, better paid and training for HTS workers so people who is working with our loved ones, and more awareness of how important these services are, and also how important it is for us to take care of ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to provide care for them. Families like mine want to do our part, but we need our city and our system to help us do it. And I know there is the money. We just need to learn how to move that money better, I guess. Thank you so much for listening and for caring about families like mine. Together, we can make a difference. For people with disabilities and with mental illness, and for the parents who love them with all their hearts. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful. One of the things we committed to was many of us are staying until we're done hearing from everyone. So if you have something you have to go to, of course you can leave. And that's why I know people have to come and go, but we are planning to stay. Many of us stay till the end. I want to thank Maria and so many other people that we've heard from today their stories have been so important to me in terms of learning the practical application of what happens in communities. And so your stories do matter. I will remember your faces. I'm just telling you now. I know your faces and it will come back to me when we're talking about programs. Missy is up next.
Our last name is kind of hard, isn't it?
Yes, I look.
Salaji. That's how you say that. My name is Missy Salaji, and I am so grateful to be in the same room as many of you because I feel like I have so many allies. I'm here to talk about mental health as well. 6 years ago this November, our younger son died by suicide. He reached out to a trusted adult and nothing came of it. 2.5 months later, he died. One of the things that I get to do as a result of dear Nate, my baby, is that I get to work in children's mental health now for the city of Edmond. And we've received a grant. It's called a Systems of Care grant. And we are working to try and bring those people together who work in children's mental health. This grant specifically covers ages 0 to 21. And our aim is to help like many of you said, in prevention before we get to the adult stages. I have some suggestions, and I have handouts as well, but I didn't think to write my story down, and I should have. I am asking that you fully fund schools. That's what I'm asking for. Of course, with the caveat of transparency, in our system of independent school districts, we don't always have the transparency that is needed in order for us to know the severity of the problem or the breadth of the problem that we're dealing with mental health wise. In my specific school district, there are gatekeepers for OPNA data. OPNA is the Oklahoma Prevention Needs Assessment Survey that is given twice a year to 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. In my job, I wanted to make a dashboard for our city so that we could tell progress. How is this grant helping us? When I contacted ODMH to get that data, I was told they will ask the school district if I can have it. That's not okay. That's not transparency. One of the solutions that I'd like to propose is that we put licensed professional counselors and social workers in the schools. I have brought, and I'll give to you, an exemplar of where it is working in Minnesota. And that's not the, is it stop? Okay, that's not the only instance, but I will give you that data later. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Elizabeth Wheat. Sure means yes, right? Sure. Elizabeth, you're in, right? Come on down. Come on down.
I know. Well, here I am. I feel a little silly kind of coming after all these mental health people because I'm here to talk about the film industry and the money that it can bring to this state. Okay, so this is a good thing for everybody. So if you saw Twisters, if you have seen Tulsa King, if you've seen any of the work that Sterling Harjo does, some of that work is funded by us, the taxpayers. It also, the things that you guys don't see is my people. I work for IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. It's a labor union that represents film crew. These are professional people, gone to school or not, that know how to make movies. They live here and they work on these films. And our labor union represents them so that they have, good pay, they have safe working environments, and we negotiate the contracts with those employers. So it's important to fund the film incentive because it brings money to all of these other things that we need to do. So it's this pot that makes this giant pot, and it does employ locals. Even if it doesn't seem like it, you see Sylvester Stallone going by in your studio, in your house. It brings money and it brings jobs. So that's kind of my message, is it brings jobs. That's it, y'all.
And you can hassle Elizabeth if you want more information about the profession. Thank you. Marguerite Larson. Marguerite.
I'm Marguerite Larson. I'm from Norman, so thank you to Thunderbird over there. What I really wanted to advocate for was schools. And what I would really like is a full funding for the school. I want to emphasize that when I was in school, we had school nurses. We were not requiring our teachers to be our caretakers, our mothers, our fathers, our nursemates. So I have no idea why Oklahoma system is not, I did not come to school in Oklahoma, but I don't know why the Oklahoma school system has never done that. And I really, truly believe in my heart, my soul, if we had counselors, we had mental health people, and we had school nurses in our schools, it would definitely help our children feel safer. If they had a problem, they would have someone that they could actually go to and not feel like their grades are going to be impacted because they say something to their teacher. So that's what I'm here advocating for. However, I'm like, all of this needs to be done. And my question is, you guys got your hands full because God knows how you're going to get this across the board. And it's really a shame that the other half was not here tonight to hear these testimonies. So thank you.
Thanks. Well, hopefully we're just warming up for future advocacy and we'll be carrying these stories. Brandy Vore. Brandy, come on down.
Good evening. Thank you. Well, I'm Brandy Vore. I'm from Rush Springs, but I've grown up in Oklahoma City. I don't have any affiliation with public schools. I was up there. So before I begin, I want to make something clear. This is not a speech about party lines. This is a plea for people, for Oklahomans, for mothers and sons, veterans and neighbors who are falling through cracks that were never meant to hold human lives. We've seen the effects of underfunding in real time. Programs cut like OCARTA, Clubhouse, DBSA, Parents Helping Parents, and many others, all nonprofits that change and enhance lives. But our doors are closing because we're considered non-essential or redundant. Services that are changing lives silenced, not because the work failed, but because the system did. Now, to be fair, ODMH SES is carrying the weight of a statewide crisis, and the cost of that underinvestment doesn't disappear, it only shifts. Every dollar we don't invest in people, we end up paying for somewhere else, in jails, in hospitals, and too often, especially in our peer work for addiction mostly, but also in mental health, in funerals. The cost of incarceration, hospitalization, and death isn't just financial, it's moral. And every life lost is more than a tragedy. It's one less taxpayer, voter, one less parent, one less future that could have contributed to the fabric of this state, the film industry. There's another truth we have to face with courage, though. There's profit in poverty. There are systems that stay just broken enough for some to benefit. But that's not who we are. Not as Oklahomans, not as people. We can choose differently. We can build something new together, not red or blue, not urban or rural, but human. When we invest in people, in mental health, in recovery, in housing, in community care, we aren't just spending money, we are saving futures. That's how we lower crime, reduce costs, strengthen families, and grow our workforce. That's how we transform survival into thriving. This is not a political ask. This is a moral and economic one. It's about stewardship of lives, of hope, of the future of Oklahoma. As Galatians 6:9 reminds us, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So let us not give up now. Let us rise to this moment together and be the generation that chose courage over comfort, people over profit, and hope over fear. Because investing in people isn't just the right thing to do. It's the only way to move forward in Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Tyler McDaniel, please. All right.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Tyler McDaniel, and I serve as a housing ambassador at OCARTA, the Oklahoma Citizens Advocates for Recovery and Transformation Association. At OCARTA, we believe recovery is possible for everyone. But what makes our work different is how we approach it. We are a peer-run organization, meaning the people providing support have lived it. They know what it's like to start over, to face barriers, and to fight for a second chance. I would like to share one story that shows what that looks like in real life. A gentleman named James came to OCARTA after completing treatment. He moved into one of our men's recovery homes and started applying for jobs. But instead of isolating, James stayed connected with his peers. Our staff encouraged him to keep going. One of our peer support specialists helped him rewrite his resume and practice interview skills, small steps that made a big difference. Within 2 weeks, James got several interviews. He was offered a full-time job and has now been sober for over a year. Today, he pays his own rent, helps others new to recovery, and says, it wasn't just finding a job that changed things. It was having people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's the power of peer support. It's not just about services, it's about relationships. It's about meeting people where they are. seeing their potential and walking beside them until they see it for themselves. Every day we see stories like James. Peer support keeps people out of jails, out of crisis, and out of hospitals. So when you invest in peer support, you're not funding a program. You're funding people. You're funding hope. And in Oklahoma, hope is one of our strongest resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Roger Smith. Did you all come in together? Yeah? All right, Roger.
Good evening. My name is Roger Smith. I'm here to speak on mental health and substance use. Peer recovery support specialists play a crucial role in helping individuals with mental health challenges by offering support based on their own lived experience. Unlike traditional clinicians, PRSS have personally faced and managed mental health conditions or substance use disorders, which allows them to relate to others on a deeply empathetic level. This shared experience fosters trust and reduces stigma, helping individuals feel understood and less alone in their recovery journey. By modeling successful recovery, peer specialists can inspire hope and show that healing and stability are possible. In addition to emotional support, PRSS help clients navigate mental health systems and access resources. They often assist with tasks such as scheduling therapy appointments, finding housing or employment, and connecting with community services. My personal experience with PRSS has brought me back down to reality in ways that I didn't even think was possible, like paying rent and stuff like that. I'm really growing. Yeah. So, yeah. So, like we say, we like to start small with the small steps, and perhaps most importantly, peer recovery support specialists promote long-term recovery for fostering self-efficiency and resilience. They encourage individuals to set goals, celebrate small victories, and develop coping strategies tailored to their unique needs. By providing consistent support and reinforcing the value of peer connection, PRSS help reduce isolation and prevent relapse or return to use. Their presence often fills a critical gap between clinical treatment and everyday life, making recovery feel more accessible and sustainable. To end it, all we can ask is that you help support others the way you support yourself.
Thank you, Roger. Tasha Hardcastle. Tasha.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. My name is Tasha Hardcastle, and I serve as a partnership and program ambassador for OCARTA. I didn't come to OCARTA seeking services myself, but in my role, I've had the privilege of seeing up close the power of peer support and how it changes lives, strengthens families, and restores entire communities across our state. At OCARTA, peer services aren't just programs, they're relationships. They're rooted in lived experience, compassion, and hope. They meet people exactly where they are and walk with them side by side as they build their lives. And I want to share a couple of stories with you. One of them you heard from tonight, Tyler McDaniel. Sorry. He came to our program out of treatment and into our housing. And when he didn't think that others would give him a chance, OCARTA did. And he started out at our cafe and ended up at our main office as a certified PRSS, and also just graduated mental health court today. And like he mentioned, a lot of us peers believe in those that don't believe in him themselves. And he is one of those that I am here for today. Another one of those you heard from is Mr. Roger Smith. He too is a PRSS in training at OCARTA. As Brandy, our executive director, said earlier, a lot of our services have been called redundant or non-essential. But without these peer services, things that Mr. Tyler McDaniel or Roger Smith have been able to experience out of CARTA, they would not have been able to do anywhere else. So when you're going over budgets and thinking of things that you might be able to move around, please think about peer services because those are important to people's lives today in Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you so much. And thank you all for letting us hear your stories. Shane Lunsford. Shane. We're keeping in the family.
My name is Shane Lunsford, and I was born and raised here in Oklahoma. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Shane Lunsford, and I serve as volunteer and peer recovery support specialist coordinator for OCARTA, Oklahoma Citizens Advocates for Recovery and Transformation Association. But before I ever had a title, I was a participant. I walked through OCARTA's doors looking for hope. And what I found was connection, understanding, and purpose. Someone who had been where I was sat across from me, looked me in the eye and said, "You can recover, and I'll walk with you until you believe it too." That's what peer support is. It's not clinical. It's not judgmental. It's human. It's people with lived experiences helping others navigate the hardest parts of recovery in life. And for so many of us, it's the reason we're still here. Today, as a coordinator, I get to witness those same moments of transformation every single day. I've seen participants reunite with their children, regain employment, and become peers themselves. I've seen people who once had lost all hope and now leading support groups, volunteering in their communities, and showing others that recovery is possible. But these outcomes don't happen by accident. They happen because Oklahoma invested in peer services. And if those services are discontinued or reduced, the impact would be devastating. It wouldn't just affect agencies like OCARTA, it would affect people, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, real Oklahomans that rely on the supports to stay in recovery and rebuild their lives. Peer services save lives. They reduce relapse rates, strengthen families, and ease the burden on our criminal justice and healthcare systems. Every dollar invested in peer recovery pays back in stability, productivity, and community safety. So I stand here today not just as an employee, but as someone who's lived it, proof that peer support works. Please continue to invest in Oklahoma's peer workforce and protect the programs that keep recovery within reach for every single person who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shane. Ashley Gay.
Stadium. Thank you. My name is Ashley Gay. I'm from Comanche, Oklahoma, southwestern Oklahoma. I didn't know I was suffering from a mental illness. I just thought I was broken. I thought addiction was my identity, but what I really needed was help. And for years, help wasn't there. Good evening. I'm Ashley Gay. I already said that, sorry. I'm nervous. When I finally got into a state-funded rehab, everything changed. I received counseling that helped me unpack years of trauma, shame, and fear. I entered a program that gave me structure, accountability, and hope. I didn't just get clean, I started healing. Because of those resources, I'm now 5 years sober. I'm a homeowner. I'm a mother to my children, and I work for Heather's Hope Housing, a transitional living program that helps people rebuild their lives after addiction and mental health challenges. But without that help, my kids would have grown up in foster care. I'd probably be in prison. That's not an exaggeration. That's reality for so many Oklahomans who don't get the chance I did. I also want to speak as a member of the Oklahoma Family Network. I've had my own DHS case, and I know what it's like, the fear of losing your children, not because you don't love them, but because you're struggling and there's no support. Today, my voice is being heard. I'm part of a movement that's helping families stay together, helping children avoid the trauma of foster care, and showing that recovery is possible when we invest in people, not systems. When we talk about state budget, we're not just talking about numbers, we're talking about lives. We're talking about whether someone gets a second chance or gets left behind. And transitional housing programs like Heather's Hope Housing are critical. They give people a safe place to land while they rebuild. Without housing, recovery falls apart. We need more programs like this, and we need to fund them. I've seen what happens when people are given the tools to heal. I've also seen what happens when they're ignored. Addiction, incarceration, homelessness, suicide, these are preventable outcomes, but only if we invest in the prevention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Terry Kinder. So pleased y'all are here. Appreciate everyone who drove in, especially I know it's a pain, but it's special to be in the Capitol, I hope.
Thank you, guys. So my name is Terry Kinder, and I've worked with Oklahoma Family Network for the last 10 years, supporting families with children that have a mental health concern as well as other disabilities, but mental health is where my personal experience is. Our staff supports families based on their own experiences all across communities in Oklahoma. I personally live in Cotton County, rural southwest Oklahoma. All three of our schools in Cotton County are Title I schools. And for several years, our county had the highest rate of youth suicides per capita, a statistic that we're certainly not proud of. I was planning to share some personal family stories today from families that I've served and supported, but I think it's more important to highlight some policies that are already in place that providers don't currently have the capacity to fill. In 2022, legislators passed a bill requiring all Oklahoma schools to implement a mental health protocol, which included having a written contract with a mental health provider, training for educators provided by them, and developing a crisis plan. Over the years, I've developed relationships with a lot of schools in rural southwest Oklahoma. And several of these schools in July 2023 were already out of compliance and receiving notices from the state superintendent's offices. After connecting with a few of them in my community, the mental health and the mental health center and with other local mental health providers, one of the requirements that they were not able to provide was training provided by mental health providers for these schools. In order to be able to get these schools in compliance, I partnered with other local agencies and organizations through coalitions in order to provide the required trainings to help these schools required to meet state standards to get into compliance. At this time, I've worked with 8 different superintendents to bring their schools into compliance and still have relationships with them today. There are not enough providers across the state, and the ones that are available lack the capacity to meet full requirements set by this policy specifically. I know that legislation had great intentions with this policy to support families in schools, but intentions without action is invisible. I heard that recently, and I say action equals money. I have a list of family stories that I could share with you today on how multiple families have been let down and not helped by mental health services that are not available to them when they're needed, time and time again. But it's not just families that are not being served. It's schools that are not being served. They don't have access to those services either. Schools that are taking care of our children all across the state. So to all of you guys that are here, I just want to say thank you for being here. This is so important, listening to all of these family voices. And it's the only way that you can improve the services by asking the people that are directly served by these systems. Just being here, you are already making a huge impact on the people that have spoke today by making them feel heard. So I just want to thank you guys for that. Thank you.
Honored to have your voice. Thank you. Jeff Dismukes. We are getting close to the end. I was going to make another call for speakers, but I think I won't at this point. We will have time in November. If you have ideas, we'll have space. Come on up, Jeff.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you also, Representative Munson. With here, it's good to see that people are actually talking about behavioral health in Oklahoma and talking about it for the right reasons instead of forgetting that this is about individuals. This is about families. This is about our economic future in this state. We've lost that in political discussion, and it's disturbing. I'm Executive Director of Depression Bipolar Support Alliance of Oklahoma. I am one of the 600,000 to 1 million Oklahomans annually who experience mental health issues, serious mental health issues. If you want to know, and I've talked to groups about this, what does bipolar disorder look like? You're looking at it. This is bipolar disorder in Oklahoma, and I'm well because I received the right services. And those services have been pulled away from Oklahomans in the last few months. I heard, the comment I think Brandy made about essential. We're not essential. We're the people who need these services, who have gone through these services, who have found a way to recover and are trying to help others do the same. You have NAMI back here. The Evolution Foundation was here. You have OCARTA, DBSA, Thunderbird Clubhouse, Parents Helping Parents, the Oklahoma Family Network. We've dedicated our lives to helping others. We are essential. We absolutely are essential. And there's something I heard out of the current commissioner the other day. He was talking about, hey, we preserve core services. No, we haven't. We have cut crisis services. As a matter of fact, those cuts were made months ago and not talked about. We've cut crisis services, things that I worked on for years when I was at the department and worked with the legislature to fund PAC services, NAMI, and PAC services, bringing that to this community or to our state. We've had dedicated funding for that. We've had dedicated funding for systems of care. We've had dedicated funding for our treatment courts, for our veteran services. That's what's been wiped out. And there wasn't a thought about how that was really going to impact the state. I worked with the Oklahoma County Jail. In our board meeting the other day, we talked about the impact of these cuts. The jail's going to fill up. The emergency rooms already are. Call St. Anthony's, call Integris. They're backing up right now. The cost is going to be borne by the local taxpayer. It's going to be counties. It's going to be municipalities. And unfortunately for legislators, although this is a move that was made by a different branch of the government, you're going to be blamed. I am asking, I'm begging, work with your colleagues. Reverse the cuts. Don't just reverse the cuts. So I'm not saying just throw the money back at us. We need capacity. Let us be part of this solution. The funding cuts and the funding issue with the Department of Mental Health, I've experienced worse. And what we did is we always brought together our partners and we came up with real solutions. That's been lost. That's been lost over the last 15 months. That has been lost over the last 7 years. We need to make an investment in mental health. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Jay Bruce. Joni Bruce. I have two Bruces on my list. I don't know if you're both speaking.
The Bruces have a little bit to say tonight. I am Joni Bruce, and I live in Oklahoma City, and I am the executive director of Oklahoma Family Network. And I just have to say, I'm so proud of all of you for coming tonight and taking your time, because as you see, most of Oklahoma isn't here. I hope they're watching on your feed. There's been a lot said about mental health tonight, and just the number of resources that have been lost over the last less than a year. And it's a crisis. I mean, we already had a crisis, and then COVID hit, and I think it just made it worse. But everyone's been so articulate. If you don't mind, I'd just like to share a few very briefly stories. I'm not even going to share all the stories, just some of the fixes that families have emailed to me or texted to me over the last few days since I found out about this hearing. Tammy Burleson said she's very concerned. She's from the Oklahoma City area and actually works for Oklahoma Family Network. But she's very concerned because early hearing detection and intervention, our State Department of Health decided not to accept federal funds for that any longer. And a lot of services are not going to be provided now. And one of those key services is when a child fails a newborn screening, and they have follow-up nurses that will call and follow up and make sure that these young children get to the services and supports that they need. So we're just wondering, how can that funding, what's going to happen? How are all those needs going to be met? And then Renee and Colin Shawhan, who are from Bartlesville. And Renee, I mean, this is amazing. I have so many staff that have so many issues. So Colin is a dentist, and he was running a dental practice in Bartlesville. And he actually had to stop providing healthcare insurance for his employees because it got so expensive as a small business owner. They basically dropped their health insurance for all of their employees, and they personally went out on the exchange and were able to get a major medical to cover themselves. And finally, Colin just shut his practice down because they just couldn't afford it. They had to find a way to get healthcare coverage and steady income. And so that's sad. Bartlesville lost a great dentist. Laura Robertson Tulsa needs HTS services and respite. Her son's on the medically fragile waiver, and it doesn't offer that. And I think that's something that we need to change. Sarah Jacoby from Oklahoma City wants counselors in school because her twins can't get counseling because their counselor moves so far away, and she can't get them back and forth. Yvonne Lira supports families of children with special needs, and she has seen a high incidence of mental and wellness of children and their families. So I appreciate your time. The only other thing I just say real quickly is, if every child serving agency had an advisory that included the people that they served, and they paid them like consultants because they can't get that advice and wisdom in any other way, I think we would have the money to fund what we need, because the people being served would tell you what they do need and what they don't need. And so you can actually save funds by just listening to the people who are being served. Thank you.
All right, Jen Randall. Jen Randall, you're up. Jen Randall. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the other Bruce. I'll let the other Bruce go. Sorry. I had you all backwards, apparently, and we are going to hear from the other Bruce. I apologize. Mr. Bruce.
I don't object to the other Bruce. I'm married to Joni Bruce, so people call me in her circles the myth behind the legend, and that's true. So James Bruce, Oklahoma City. I'm going to be speaking on the impact of cyber terrorism on small businesses and small business owners. Until last December, I myself owned a small business. And here's my story. In 2020, my company was the victim of a cyber attack that threatened to bankrupt my company. My company employed over 30 people with a payroll of salaries and healthcare benefits of over $2 million annually. Our second largest expense related to IT consulting, cybersecurity insurance, as well as third-party software for cyber intrusion detection, prevention, and training. The cyber terrorists in this case demanded a $500,000 ransom not to put and release the information that they had taken from our IT environment, which related to 500,000 people, individuals, their names, addresses, and social security numbers. We didn't pay the ransom. We used that money instead to send notices to the impacted individuals, to inform them of the incident, and to offer to them credit monitoring and ID theft protection insurance. We would have to pay that anyway, whether we paid the ransom or not. We also then had to defend against a class action lawsuit that was brought on behalf of the customers. Frankly, and I'm a lawyer, I felt like the plaintiff lawyers were the second threat actors that we had to defend against. We ultimately settled that lawsuit. The majority of the settlement fund went off the top to the law firm that sued us. Approximately $500,000 went to the law firm, leaving out of the settlement fund approximately $2.40 per individual in the class action. So I understand this meeting is predominantly related to allocation of state money and budgets. So I would encourage, if not already having been done or being done, that the state would allocate at least some funds to study the impact of cyber terrorism on Oklahoma businesses and explore ways to partner with those businesses in ways that would be helpful to the businesses and the impacted individuals, perhaps through tort reform that would increase or heighten the burden of proof that the plaintiffs would have to show. I would suggest at least willful negligence on the part of businesses, and address the issues of how much of settlement funds ultimately can go to those impacted individuals. However, it's been enlightening as a business owner to hear the stories of the mental health needs. So I certainly wouldn't advocate taking money away from the state budget to address my concerns regarding businesses that could otherwise go to healthcare and mental health reform. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. As Jen Randall comes up, I'll tell Jay, actually, we did pass a mandate around reporting to the AG and the AG researching patterns in cyber terrorism, but I bet it didn't come with a budget. I don't remember. Well, we'll talk more about that because we did pass some legislation. All right, Jen, I want you to know that I begged. I tried hard to get students here. I even assigned my intern to come and he still didn't come.
Oh, we'll get them. We'll get them. They're not used to being, so we'll just keep going. So my name is Jennifer Jen Randall, and I appreciate the chance to speak to you today on a topic that affects every single one of us, every Oklahoman, the state budget. Yay! This building's where we determine the physical future of our state. It's a moral document, like she referenced earlier, that reflects our state's values. And as citizens, our voice should be the primary value reflected in this document. I have so much pride when I talk about Oklahoma and I say, I'm an Okie. I'm an Oklahoman because I believe in the potential of the state. We've heard the stories of the potential in our state, but we have to invest in our fundamental services. The core priorities that I believe that are fundamental are three things. First, public education. Our children, as the song goes, are our future. Okay, I won't sing. Are our future workforce and leaders of Oklahoma. We have to ensure every student has access to a quality education because all means all. This means funding and supporting our teachers, our support staff, special education, career tech programs to ensure that pathways from classrooms go to careers. Secondly, public health and mental health. We have to prioritize addressing the funding shortfall in our mental health services and ensuring access to affordable health care. This also includes continuing the funding of developmental disability services and our Medicaid waivers. Oklahoma has worked far too hard to decrease its waiting list and to not continue the work that we've done to ensure it's just going to destroy the progress and the hope that families now have. Let's ensure that our families are valued and respected by helping them live in a healthy, safe, meaningful, and productive good life. And then third, infrastructure and public safety. We have to invest in our roads and our bridges to keep our economy moving and safely. We have to have our public safety officers, all our firefighters, our police, our first responders. We've got to make sure they're well supported and equipped to keep our communities safe. These priorities aren't partisan issues. They're core government responsibilities to benefit us all, from our largest cities to our smallest towns. But the hard part's funding all of this because it requires collaboration. We see proposals focused on one-size-fits-all tax relief or grocery tax cuts, income tax cuts. They're appealing, but they come to a cost of our fundamental services. We need our governor, the House, the Senate to do more than simply agree on a total dollar amount. They should engage in thoughtful compromise that funds our core services. We, the people, have taken the time to be here tonight, so we're asking our elected officials to take the same energy and commit to building a budget that works not just for a powerful few, but for every one of us. Thank you.
Here, here. Amen. All right. Brenner's going to bring us home. Brenner? Ah, Brenner. Thank you. Come on down.
So my name is Brenner Hall. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and I spent a lot of my life growing up around different parts of Europe, like The Hague. I've been living in Norman since about 2018 when I came here to start college at OU for the first time. I did not plan to speak tonight. Frankly, I'm tired and I'm very shy and I was having a bad hair day and I'm brand new to this job, Thunderbird Clubhouse. By the way, shout outs to them. And I haven't even made a speech of probably any kind since God knows how long, like high school. But I literally wrote this on my phone while sitting here because I was inspired and I know I would not be able to leave here tonight not saying something without having a regret. At the end of the day, I'm not only passionate about mental health, but also politics, about public policy, activism, and making the world a better place. So just a little bit about me and my story. I was born in 2000. I'm 25 years old. I might be possibly the youngest person in the room here right now. I don't know. I was diagnosed at 15 with what they called Asperger's at the time. And since the DSM-4 has now been folded into a form of autism. And things throughout my life, I've obviously had my fair share of struggles because of that, but I'm proud to be where I am now. It took me a while to eventually put myself through college, but I'm on the road to fulfilling a passion where I can give back to communities and serve them in the ways that I would have liked to have been better served throughout my life. Beyond that, though, I'm not just here to speak on behalf of myself. I'm not even here just to speak on behalf of Clubhouse. You know, I took that job only a couple weeks ago, and already I'm amazed at the things that they do for our members and for the people of our community all around us. But it's bigger than just them. It's bigger than any one organization that came here tonight. You've heard from our members. You've heard from other people who have spoken out about their stories, about the specific stories of other people that they know in their lives. So what I'm going to do while I'm up here is I'm going to address what I say more directly to you. And I apologize in advance for how different my rhetoric is about to be compared to those that spoke before me. Because I know that the system is set up against you, Democrats, in here, Oklahoma. I'm not about to talk to you like this is some kind of swing state, but that can't be an excuse. So what I'm going to do while I'm up here is ask you, how do you plan to fight for the people that you've heard from tonight? Because in my opinion, it's not enough to just shrug your shoulders when the Republican majority inevitably says, no, we'd rather distract from the real issues with some silly culture war and cut some public programs so rich people get another tax cut and call it a day. Here's a dirty little secret that I think you should be able to see at work with your party nationally, especially since the last federal election. You don't get my vote just by not being them. As far as I'm concerned, it's not enough to just be better than the other side if you're not willing to actually be a champion for us. As I recall, Democratic legislators in my home state of Texas, when their Republican colleagues recently tried to gerrymander the black population out of their due representation again, were willing enough to stand up for their principles, even if it meant boycotting and leaving the state. And it's not like that state validates the constant Democratic dreams of it becoming a swing state either. Just like Oklahoma, that is a very deep red state, as we all know. Meanwhile, did every single Democratic lawmaker who was able to even show up tonight? I'm not sure. I've grown up knowing that I live in a country where it's easy for special interests to get what they want. ALEC always has someone willing to go to bat for them. AIPAC always has someone willing to go to bat for them. The Federalist Society always had people willing to go to bat for them. So who is going to stand up for us, the people who you've heard plead to you for help tonight? Are you going to be willing to do that, or are you just going to listen to all of it, chalk it up to another unfortunate loss of what your state map looks like, and then watch as public programs get cut and our livelihoods continue to get funneled up towards the richest few? You heard one single person tonight say they were proud to be an Okie. I'm going to be honest with you. In my time living here in Oklahoma, I can't say that I'm proud to have done so. And I can't blame other people who might feel the same way. I know the state that I live in. I know you're not my biggest obstacle, but unless you stand up to the wealthy interests backing a Republican majority in this state, you're also not my biggest friend either. At the end of the day, we hear a lot of talk about standing up and condemning political violence lately. So here's one last little bit of wisdom for you all. This, politics itself, is political violence. Policies we listened to the amazing lady from the Oklahoma Institute describe earlier do cost lives, and young people of my generation have long since realized this. Political violence isn't just some guy with a gun on a college campus. When people across the intersections of race, gender, class, and more die in the streets or get ripped from their families and incarcerated instead of given treatment, this too is political violence and costs lives. So when this happens just so that some of your richest constituents can pay even less taxes, I hope that this weighs on your consciousness just as much. Whether or not you're the one that voted for it, I want to know what you're doing to stop it. So I will wrap this up by saying again that I ask what courage the lawmakers in here will have to stand up for these people that you heard from tonight. They inspired me enough to get out of my comfort zone a little bit too. So I pray to God that it may outweigh the loyalty anyone has simply to their career prospects or to any political donors here to stand up for us. Because as I said earlier, everyone who testified here tonight needs someone in their corner. And it sure as heck ain't going to be anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Brennan. I think Honestly, that's the best possible end to tonight, which is calling us to higher standards, calling us to harder work, and making sure that we're truly fighting like we intend to, and I know we're going to. So I'm so honored that you shared your stories, and all those who had to leave, I appreciate their voices as well. I hope this isn't the last time that you're advocating here or in your district. We certainly are glad to know where you're coming from and to know more about what you need, and hope to carry your voices as best we can as we fight up here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to colleagues who are here, to those of you who shared, and those of you who listened.
Leader Kurt, before I close, yes. Before I close this all out, because I love a birthday, can we sing happy birthday to Nadine? I already sang to you. Happy birthday to Nadine. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Aww. That would have been fun to close it out to sing to you, though. No, Nadine is here often, and so
Libra.
yeah, this is in some ways we're family as well, right? We've been in the trenches here at the Capitol. A few things that I wanted to say really quickly is I do want to say thank you to the folks who came up to this microphone and shared your stories. Having the courage and the bravery to be vulnerable, whether it's about yourself or your family members or your community, is not an easy thing to do, especially in places like this. And like I said, when we open, my hope is that you will continue to keep coming up here so you can talk to both sides and you can talk to more members of the legislature. I was elected in 2016, and I remember when very similar stories came to the Capitol, and folks came and shared their stories in my office. And I tell people this regularly, is one of the worst times here to hear grown adults, many men who don't typically share their feelings and things that they're going through in my office about life-saving services, especially around mental health and human services. And we are creeping towards, if not already there again, and it hasn't even been a decade. And so you've got to pay attention to what's going on up here. You do have to keep holding us all accountable. One other thing that I wanted to mention with the budget that I want us to pay attention to is that it's not just about tax increases and decreases and all of that, but be mindful when you hear leaders of our state ask for flat budgets, because those are cuts. And so talking to your representative, talking to your senator, and making sure that, you know, all the storytelling that was happening here, their storytelling is very powerful, and lived experiences cannot be denied. And so when we can put a human face to the cuts that are being made, my hope is that my colleagues across the aisle who do have the power to make a lot of these decisions and send it to us, and we have to make a decision on what's in front of us, that they'll listen a little bit more. But I want you to leave feeling empowered that your stories do matter, and no matter where you live in the state, rural Oklahoma, urban Oklahoma, and the budget is a wide breadth of issues and things that we have to work on. It all matters. It all impacts our state. It all impacts the people that we represent. So I just echo what Leader Kurt said, and all of our colleagues that have been in the room. Thank you for taking the time to be here and sticking it out with us. There's nothing more important than listening to Oklahomans. So again, thank you. And thank you to the Senate Democrats and Leader Kurt for your leadership on bringing folks together.
November 18th, bill ideas.
So on November 18th, the next topic will be bill ideas. So if you have ideas on what lawmakers could be working on, come on and let us know what your ideas are. A few weeks after that, we'll start filing legislation. And really the best bills that we can work on are the bills and ideas that turn into bills here at the state capitol. So again, thank you so much for being here. Be safe as you head home tonight, and know that you can always reach out to us in the future. Thanks so much.